Hello and welcome to AutoFocus. Global climate change is something that we have to deal with. It is something that we cannot deny anymore. And I'm standing on a hotter than anticipated day in Dehradun to drive one of the hottest new cars in the market for this year. The car I'm talking about is the Maruti Suzuki Jimny. And the Maruti Suzuki Jimny is the most anticipated new SUV introduction for this year. Maruti says it wants to grow bigger in the SUV market, and here it is finally. We have at hand for a test drive the brand new 4th generation Maruti Suzuki Jimny. Unveiled at the Auto Expo earlier this year, this is Maruti Suzuki's Jimny, which is a little different from the Jimny sold worldwide. The Jimny is a global icon. It's sold as a subcompact 3-door worldwide, and it's hugely popular, and it's been around since about 1970, a vehicle that has had many iterations. This has been re-engineered by Maruti Suzuki specifically for the Indian market, and this is the 5-door Jimny that is going to be sold only in the Indian market for now. And this is a vehicle, an SUV that is going to be competing with a lot of genuine off-roaders, and today we have come here to experience its off-roading capability. And some of the stages that I have done already, I can tell you it's genuinely surprising that a vehicle that is this compact and something that you do not expect from Maruti, genuinely taking the off-road tracks out here and really coming through clean. Now this is a 5-door, 3 doors in India haven't worked in the mass market. This is not going to be targeting the mass market car buyer, and yet this is a vehicle that is coming from a brand like Maruti, and a 5-door made more sense, which is the reason why it's been delayed coming into the Indian market. Otherwise, the 3-door Jimny has been around. It has been in Suzuki's portfolio for a while, and it could have been brought to India before. But here we have the new Jimny 5-door with the one engine, petrol engine option, the K15B engine, and 2 gearbox options. It gets a 4-speed automatic and a 5-speed manual, and it is going to be sold with 4-wheel drive capability as standard and a lot of safety kit too as standard. Let's take a deep dive into the Suzuki Jimny, experience it on-road and off-road, and give you more details about it. So as many of you might have observed already, the Suzuki Jimny and the Maruti Gypsy shared a lot of DNA, and this is the new Maruti Suzuki Jimny, which again, as you would see, shares a lot of design DNA from the Gypsy. The inspiration has been the Gypsy, the whole clamshell bonnet, the the vents here at the A-pillar. Some of these features were something that were what made the Gypsy stand out, and that's been brought into the Jimny too. And of course the round headlamps, some of the other features in the front that you see, the whole box-like construction for the Jimny, all of that again coming through from the Gypsy. Now this of course is the new front bonnet grille that you get in the Jimny. A lot of that slightly masculine and yet sporty, aggressive SUV stance that you get from that front fascia. Some of the kit that you see here of course is additional accessories that Maruti is offering, that you can then add on to your shopping basket to get to personalize the Jimny that you're shopping for. Aside of some of those design additions that you get, the basic design of the Jimny remains the same. Side character of course captured a lot by this resin molded wheel arches that kind of give it a lot of strength. For me personally, I would have liked to have seen slightly taller rims, but that said, high profile tires, the stock tires themselves being very capable as we checked out today during the off-road session, and that's something that you're going to be getting, the 15-inch rims and these Bridgestone tires. Side profile characterized by those parallel lines, which again is a very sort of like a global SUV thing, which also gives it a very, very strong and yet a simple stance. So that bit of minimalism captured by the side profile, and of course the 340 millimeters or so of that extra length that you're getting compared to the 3-door Jimny. That's what you get with the 5-door Jimny, and all of that length captured when you look at it from the side, front 2 windows and the rear, quarter glass, getting that sort of impact for the Jimny when you look at it from the side. Behind the accessorized version of the Jimny, just to show you the possibilities that you can achieve by adding some of these accessories, including this spare wheel cover that looks very sort of shiny and special, but the rear design continues to be the same. You get a side opening tailgate, and of course the extra length has been handled. Maruti says, of course, the weight of the spare wheel also has been factored into the construction for the D-pillar and the tailgate, so that shouldn't be an issue. It's a pretty simplistic rear design. The roof is what sort of adds a lot of character to the Jimny, and it continues to add character to the rear, including that rain gutter that goes around the car and gives it that sort of like a cap edge, very much like some of the more iconic SUVs out there which are genuine off-roaders. So this again captures that, the design. And side hinge tailgate, of course, is something that gives access to the boot. The boot is not a very large boot in the Jimny. It's only about 220 liters that you get with the 4 seats being raised and used. With the second row folded, you get about 330 liters of space. That is not something that people who buy into larger SUVs will expect. But that said, you must remember that the Jimny is a sub 4 meter SUV, though of course it does do a lot more than the average sub 4 meter SUV can. So that's the amount of space you get. In fact, in terms of cabin utility spaces and in terms of some of the practical bits, also it does fall a little short because the construction, the way the dashboard layout has been done. Also the door panels, you must remember, are very thin. So in terms of what you get for, let's say, a large bottle holder and some of the center console elements, they are certainly not as big as some of the other SUVs out there. Despite its diminutive size, its ability to go anywhere is the Jimny's trademark. It's the genetic sort of imprint that Jimny has had all these years, and that's what this is going to get. It is still a spiritual successor to the Maruti Gypsy, vehicle that has been legendary for its work in the Indian Army, for its ability to do rallying, for its ability to climb the Himalayas, for it to be able to go anywhere that you desired for it to be taken to. And that is going to be inherently the promise that the Jimny is going to come with. And so the 4-wheel drive is built in. It is still compact car, as you can see. It's under 4 meters long. It's about 1.7 meters wide. It is quite narrow in its track. Almost is surprising that a vehicle with this compact a footprint can take on the kind of off-roading that we are doing today. And that is genuinely the USP of the Jimny. And that is why Maruti wants to retain this lifestyle positioning for the Jimny, and its highlight is going to be the fact that it's a genuine off-roader that's capable of doing whatever that you throw at it. It does surprise you with its abilities, and that is something that Maruti is going to be highlighting. That is something that you should look for when you are going to go and check this car out at your nearest showroom. Now, the Jimny is still a fairly compact car, and there's a lot of firsts for the Jimny that is going to be something that you'll have to contend with, that's going to change the image of Maruti out there in the market, that is going to change your impression of Maruti as a brand. This is a 4-seater. It has got all-time 4-wheel drive, including a 4-wheel low mode, and it's got all the electronic aids and the mechanical aids that you would expect from a genuine off-roader. And it is compact, small car coming from Maruti, which would be positioned at a premium price. There is a lot of confidence that Maruti is showing from coming up with just 1 engine, 2 gearboxes, and only 2 trims for each of those 2 gearboxes. So you are going to be getting a fairly loaded version of the Jimny, whichever of the 2 trims that you're going to be buying. The Suzuki Jimny also is truly capable off-roader, as we experience today. during the multiple stages that Maruti had set up for our experience. Now these were ranging from relatively easy water wading to fairly intense downhill climb and a lot of boulder crawl and genuine off-roading through slippery slopes. So it is really capable, and much of that is built into its DNA, coming in from the packaging brand called All Grip Pro, which now Maruti is using for its vehicles with four-wheel abilities. And this one here is a little deceptive and simplistic, but unlike some of the other vehicles that Maruti has in its portfolio, this one is a genuine off-roader with a mechanical differential, a transfer case, low gear, and of course much of the assisted driving that things like hill descent control and abilities that the low gear brings with it. It is genuine off-roader that is not unlike what you might have seen for a vehicle in this size class. From that perspective, the off-roading is one of the biggest highlights of the Jimny, and that is a good thing going for Maruti, which is a brand that needs to communicate the message that we can create vehicles that then entirely focused on the ability to do something like off-roading. Now, the Jimny also has a ladder frame chassis, so starting from its underpinnings, everything going up is built on the premise that it can literally conquer any terrain that you put it through. So we are in the cabin of the new Maruti Suzuki Jimny, and as you can see, it's a very different sort of dashboard compared to the Marutis that we've seen in the past. It's capturing the flavor of an SUV, of an off-roader. Some of those exposed bolts, some of that rough textured plastic trim that you're seeing with the stuff like the grab hold, and this whole vertical orientation for the dashboard certainly doesn't look masculine from the outside, or for that matter from the inside too. I would say it is more outdoorsy, it is more sort of like an adventure seeker's modern version of a cabin that it would fit into. But yes, there are some of the familiar elements that we've seen in other Marutis, including this infotainment screen, and of course the Suzuki steering wheel with its touch controls and some of the other telephone and connectivity features, buttons that we've seen. Overall, the dashboard looked very unique. It has that flavor of something functional and at the same time something premium. There is a sense of it coming across as a strong SUV. There is only that feeling of you sitting in a slightly more cramped environment, though overall the individual elements inside the cabin look like it is from a larger vehicle. Like I said, you do get that vibe of sitting in a narrow track vehicle because of the amount of shoulder room in the Jimny. It is a fairly narrow vehicle overall. So if you are going to be seated with very tall adult next to you, you would the occasional time be rubbing shoulders with the person literally in the front. At the rear, of course, it is also meant to be only a four-seater, which then means that only two people can sit abreast with comfortable room. It is not built to take third passenger in the middle. That said, if you are looking at children being seated, that would be a different thing altogether. And yet, it is, as a matter of safety, best to be used as a four-seater because it does not come with a fifth seat belt. There are only 4 seat belts. The seatbelt reminders, of course, keep beeping. In our test mule, it has been beeping every time that, even when somebody is not being seated at the rear. There are a few small little bugs. There are a few plastic bits and panels that are, in my opinion, could have been done better. There are some small panel gaps which I found to be a little rough on the edges and a little, but that said, the overall plastic quality, the overall fit and finish, all of that is extremely good. It is unlike many of the Marutis that we've seen in the past. Maruti Suzuki Jimny, of course, gets the K15B petrol engine. It's a 1462cc or 1.5 liter petrol engine that we have seen in some of the other cars from Maruti. This is a tried and tested mill. Of course, it is compliant with all of the current regulations. The engine in the Jimny produces about 104.8 PS of peak power and 134.2 Newton meters of torque. This is not a very heavy car, or rather, it's not a very heavy subcompact SUV. Despite a lot of the additional mechanicals that the four-wheel drive requires, the curb weight is still about 1200 kilos or 1.2 tons. So from that perspective, it always feels nimble. It doesn't feel like it has got dollops of power and that you can really push hard on the highway or on regular roads, and at the same time there is no perception of it being underpowered at any point in time. Enables quick overtakes. Compact footprint means that you can really weave through traffic if needed, and of course it does feel quick even in two-wheel drive mode. Now of course four-wheel drive is available and on standby at any point in time. It's just one shift away. And of course it does have four-wheel low with a low range transfer case, all of it packaged under All Grip Pro. The engine is paired with either a 5-speed manual gearbox or a 4-speed automatic gearbox. We tried both the variants during the test drive, and its rated fuel efficiency is about 16.94 for the manual and about 16.39 for the automatic transmission. So after test driving it through the day today, putting it through its paces on some of the off-road courses that Maruti had set up for us to experience, and I must tell you, some of them are quite intense, a lot of them are very challenging, and of course we did put it through what it's capable of, which is where the bottom line really is if you are in the market to buy an SUV of this capability. Now you have to understand that this is not the average SUV out there. Yeah, there's a lot of comparisons already being made with the Mahindra Thar, and there needs to be an understanding that this is equally capable, if not better, than many of the off-roaders out there. There is, of course, as yet, there is size limitation that the Jimny comes with. It has the necessary, sort of departure angle, approach angle, breakover angle, and all of that. 36 degrees approach angle, 47 degrees departure angle, and a 24 degree breakover angle that is going to help you. And of course 210 millimeters of ground clearance, and that mechanical, all that mechanical underpinnings that is going to help you tackle the wilderness with the Jimny is all there. And yet you have to understand that when you look at the Jimny from the outside, it is going to look like a diminutive average small subcompact SUV, but it is not. It is a genuine off-roader. It is got all the wares that is needed for it to do all of that stuff that it can, and that is the reason why you will have to position it with that kind of vehicle in that same price segment, because all of that equipment costs money. And so while you might think when it does get officially launched sometime in the next few weeks, you might tend to think that the pricing does look like it has been set at a premium, but there is good reason for that premium. It is good to know that Maruti is also not going to be chasing numbers, and the fact is this is not a vehicle that is meant for the average SUV buyer. It is meant for somebody who can use it to its potential, take it out, go off-roading, experience some of the outdoors, and also genuinely appreciate what it is capable of. There is not any news as yet from Maruti whether there will be a two-wheel only version of it. Currently, there is no thought process on that direction. It is going to be a four-wheel drive that you will get, and only two trims like I was mentioning, Zeta and Alpha. And the fact is that is, in my opinion, also the right strategy for the Jimny to keep it at its special premium positioning. So expect prices to be 10 lakhs and above. My guess is it should be somewhere in the region of about 12 to 15 lakhs, and that is still a good reason to buy the Maruti Jimny. If you are convinced of its positioning, if you are expecting to take it out and experience the outdoors like a lot of people today are, then I would suggest you should go to your nearest Nexa showroom to test drive this Maruti new Jimny.